Okay, so thank you everyone for coming out. I'll start again. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight to the 2021 Spring Project Expo for blockchain. We'll be today listening to each other, to your peers' projects and what they've been working on for the past academic year. And if you're not part of a team, this may be a great opportunity to see what kind of projects your peers have done over the year, and to maybe take the time and see what group you might be interested in joining next year. So we'll get started and I'll hand it over to the technical team.
All right, let me share the screen. So yeah, the technical product team has been working on developing a decentralized applications. And this is the app where we have built. So as you can see, it's a meme sharing applications, and it's for a new student to upload some memes to this app and then share it with their friends. So we started this project back in last summer, and the idea behind it is really we want to use blockchain technology to build a truly decentralized application. And what I mean by that is any user informations and the content the user have been uploaded to our app will be stored in a decentralized system. So for example, if you upload a post on Twitter, right, it will be stored in the company's centralized database. But for our applications, everything will be in a decentralized way so that one cannot possibly delete any of the things. So for example, right, we use two things to achieve this. First, we use Ethereum blockchains. So all the backend code we have been writing is in Solidity because we're writing smart contract for the backend. And we also use a decentralized file storage system called IPFS. So it is to store those images because blockchains is quite expensive to store the larger files. So for example, right, if I go to memes that users have uploaded to our app, right, we can see that the image is actually coming from the IPFS gateway. So it means it's stored in a decentralized system, right? So the way IPFS work is that all the files is stored like on multiple computer or multiple nodes, so that one user cannot like delete any of the content. And because it's on blockchains, so in order to like interact with this application, the user has to log into our app by connecting to their digital address. So we do this by having them created a MetaMask account, and then they can just simply connect their wallet, right? And now you can see that a user address is printed here. So the application is fully connected to the MetaMask account. And you may be wondering what are like 4.9 and UMT is. So we actually also created a token for these applications. And what the token is, right? You can really think of it as, for example, in a shopping mall, right? The customer can earn some points once they made a purchase. So in our case, once the user upload a meme to our app, they can earn some tokens as a right. You can see there in their digital wallet as well, how many tokens they have. And then later on, they can use the tokens to get access to some premium content in our application. So as a reward, right, to being more engaged with our platform. So for some detailed functionalities, I will let Andrew to make a quick demo about like our applications.
Thanks, Tony. So now I will share my screen and do a short demo about what we have now. Can you guys see this? See the screen all right? Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, I haven't connected the wallet yet. So if you don't connect to the wallet, you won't be able to kind of enjoy the functionalities of this D app because it's inherently based on the wallet. And once you connect it, you'll be able to like kind of log in and see your profile here. And right now, because I'm like a frequent user and tester, so I'm having quite a lot of NUMT like coins here. And you will be able to change your username or bio here in order to set your profile and to kind of post whatever you like from here. If you're a first-time user, you can get some tokens from here, so that once you kind of get some initial tokens, you'll be able to kind of play around with all of the functionalities. And here is where you kind of post one meme, and you can kind of enter some title. Let's just call it Project Expo here, and caption is demo. And you will be able to kind of select a category here. Oops. Sorry, my computer is a bit laggy. Give it one sec. You can select a category of either free or premium here. If you select a free category, then your meme is widely available to everyone who has access to this website. And if you select premium, people will need to pay some NUMT in order to see your meme. And you can also select a tag here in order for people to kind of categorize and find your memes faster. So there are like many tags, and we can definitely add more in the future. And let me just kind of randomly select the picture here. This is just something I kind of screenshotted post the expo. And when you connect submit, it will initially lead you to the wallet. Give it one sec. So after you click on the submit button, there will be the IPFS hash, which means that, oops. Okay, so it seems like there might be some problem in the background, but basically it will kind of display the hash and the contract here, and it will prompt you to the wallet interface for you to kind of pay the actual token and continue. Once you have paid already, it means that your meme will be added to block, and then the block number will be displayed here, and that will also display the gas that have you used for this transaction or the upload. And once you have uploaded, you will be able to see your memes here. So right now we already got some test memes uploaded here, and there are also upvotes and downloads. You can see this one gained 5 upvotes, which means it's pretty popular and people kind of like this one, which is pretty cute, interesting. And you'll be able to view it here. And if the post is uploaded by someone with low reputation, clicking on it will kind of promote warning to tell you that this is from someone with low reputation, because we're all testing. So basically most people got low reputation, but once you kind of upload more memes, you'll be able to kind of get higher reputation so that people won't see this warning when you are clicking on the memes. And here's the meme interface so that you can see the meme. And there's a file link in which you can copy, or an image link that you can also copy here. So if you just click copy, then you are able to get the address of this picture or image on the IPFS. So here I just kind of copy it, and this is the message that I copied. And if you kind of just get rid of something that is before it, you'll be able to get a meme, and you can share the whole message in Discord in order to get the picture, or you can just use this link to send it wherever you want. And Facebook also kind of supports this kind of functionalities perfectly. And this is a save function. Once you kind of click on the save, then it will show up in your save post area. And other than these, if you like it, you can definitely upload it or download it if you don't like it. And this will also incur some transaction. And for here, you got a search bar, a pretty nice search bar that you can search for the title or the tag, so that I can say project demo, and then it will show up here. This is actually something that I have uploaded earlier. So, and you can also use the tag selection here to kind of see different kind of tag, different kind of memes. So there's the trending, which means that so at the top there will be the meme with most upvotes, which means the most popular one. And there's also fresh, which is the latest meme that is posted. And there's also premium, which is another big feature that I previously mentioned. But here you can see that this is a blurred image so that you don't get to see the actual image. And only if you pay for it, you will be able to see it, because I already paid for this one, so you can see this. And this is the same as the free memes. And I think that's it. This is like a really short introduction to our demo. And here's something about this app. And here is a little bit short tutorial to follow if you never used a decentralized app before. And if you want to try our meme app out, you can kind of go to this link, and this is the version that we already hosted and deployed. And we will kind of keep this one updated periodically. Thank you so much. All right, I will also send this link in the chat and the channel if you guys want to access it.
All right,
Sounds
thank
good.
you.
And we will also like to invite our team member to briefly like talk about like what they did and also what they have learned from this project. So I think Karthik, do you want to start this off?
Sure. So hi, I'm Karthik. I joined the technical projects team last winter, or I guess this winter. And so my contributions were kind of all over the place. The first thing I implemented was, I think Tony showed it off in the beginning, was the get tokens feature. So not only for first-time users that log on to their MetaMask, they can retrieve tokens, but also returning users are entitled to a certain token limit. And yeah. And so every day you have a certain limit. If you exceed the limit, then you enter into a cooldown, and only after 24 hours can you retrieve more tokens. I think the cooldown is set at, or the limit is set as 2 right now, but that can change. And then another thing I worked on was the UI for View News. I think Andrew already showed that, but just that kind of animation I sort of helped implement. And then another thing is the save functionality. Currently, we haven't deployed the contract, but when we do, you should be able to save posts, and you'll see like a UI, or like right, yeah, in that one of those columns, you should see like, hey, it's saved, and yeah.
All right, thanks, Karthik. And Marco, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the things, so yeah, I guess I joined the team around I think in the winter quarter as well. And the things I worked on doing the search bar, implementing the different tags, implementing the profile features where you can update your bio, update your username, and just a lot of different UI. Oh, I also implemented like tracking the different posts you like. So if you can see, there's like a little green arrow. So that just means that you previously liked the post, and it prevents users from liking or upvoting or downvoting a post 2 times. I guess I also implemented the different like trending tabs, the fresh tab, and yeah, and some UI changes here and there, and a little bit of error, fixing different errors. But yeah.
All right, sounds good. I think this is all we have from technical project team. So thanks.
All right, thank you. So if anyone has any questions, we'll take maybe 30 seconds to a minute to have those, so you can put them in the chat or unmute.
So if I may, the reputation system is based on, let's say you post a meme, and the number of upvotes you get would depend on how much reputation you would get. So let's say I want to see your meme and at a premium cost. Would the cost be determined by the user themselves, or would the reputation automatically adjust the cost? So the higher reputation, the higher the premium cost.
Yeah, this is like a really good point. And so currently for our beta versions, we make the cost like a fixed amount. Like for every post in premium, we only charge the user for 0.1 token. But yeah, I guess in the future, right? It could really like dynamically price, so that like it would be depends on the quality of the content, and then we can get a sense of what it's like by looking at the user reputation. So right, I think this could be like implemented in the future.
what was one of the unexpected challenges that came up in this project that you all had to navigate?
I would say there's definitely like a lot of unexpected like problem. Because as we mentioned, like it's been a year, and then like at every step, like we're adding like those functionalities, and then we are like deploying the contract, and there could be a lot of bugs, and then we definitely like spend a lot of time fixing either like the backend bugs, which like kind of hard to detect because the only thing we can do is to really go to the remix and like redeploying our contract to see where the bug is. And we also deal with a lot of like front end design issues. So yeah, I would say like every part of the applications has some like really specific challenge. And yeah, I'm very impressed like what we have by the end of this quarter. So.
Yeah, just going back, what was like the general purpose or like why did you decide to do this project?
Yeah, so initially, I think Gilberto mentioned to me like, why not to build something? I mean, like free, like for example, a platform for user to upload either a Twitter or anything, so that it can like be free from like censorship. And then in the beginning, we actually built an app because we have built an app to for user to share information during like COVID-19. For example, if someone is not following health protocols in certain places. And over the years, later we decided, well, maybe like if we build something like meme sharing platform, it will be more useful, I mean, in long term. So we kind of shifting from a COVID-19 like sharing platform to like meme sharing platform. But yeah, the basic idea is to build an application that is truly decentralized, and then there's not a single user or even ourselves to change the content the user have been uploaded to our app.
Any more questions? Okay, if not, we can move on to the consulting team.
Sure. So I can get us started. So my name is Gilbert. I'm the club president. I have the pleasure of leading the consulting team this school year with Aziz and Tony. So here we go. This year we spent a lot of it focusing on NFTs, but also DeFi. So we first started our project in the fall and partially through winter quarter by focusing on NFT artists and NFT artwork. And then we moved on for a period of time to look at decentralized finance projects and the concept of social funds. And lastly, we pivoted again to NFTs, looking at NFT business models and thinking about how corporations can adopt NFT based models to make more money. So Tony's going to get us started on NFT artists.
Yep. So like during the first part of the consulting team, we working on topic of NFT artists, and initially we did some broad research into NFT in general, and later on we kind of dive into the art industry, and we started to reach out to an individual digital artist, and then trying to see if we can help them to starting put their digital works to some NFT marketplace, essentially making their art as an NFT. And lastly, we also hosted a workshop with some on-campus clubs, and then we also recorded a workshop as a YouTube video to provide a brief intro of what is NFT art and why it's valuable. So lastly, we also compile some consulting materials for NFT artists as a guideline if they want to dive into the field of NFT. And just as a brief intro, like what is NFT art? So first, what is NFT, right? So NFT is unique digital item that's stored on blockchain, right? You can really think of it as an ID or a passport or like an artist signature, right, on the canvas to represent you and give you the ownership. So for example, NFT can be used to represent a piece of artwork on the internet. If you go to the next slide, right, like there could be like a tons of copy, for example, Mona Lisa on the internet, right? But with NFT, right, if we ever issued an NFT for Mona Lisa, right, there's only one of them or a limited amount of them is authenticated, and we record that information on blockchain so that it cannot be changed, right? So that's why NFT matters, because it provides the scarcity, ownership, and authenticity for digital art. And it's really like reducing those illegitimate duplication. And we are only authenticating a limited amount or only one of those like tons of copies. So, and here's the example, right? So this is the NFT art from the marketplace. And we can see, right? We can see who are the creators and how many editions they have. For example, they're issuing 10 of this art, and then there's only one edition of it. And then you can see that like they create a token for this, and then they are storing that token, and also it's like owner and all the relevant information on the blockchains, right? So everything is authenticated on blockchains, and it verify this is the true like artwork, and the others are just like the copies or illegitimate. So we kind of choose this industry because it's really a growing field for NFT art. As you can see, in December 2020, there's like 8.2 million in sales. And then the total market cap is 46 million. So it's still growing. And then yeah. So in the first step, right, we make a research on a few marketplace, and marketplace is really the online a website for the artists to upload their works and for the user or collectors to buy the NFT art. And then we also review a few like marketplace, and then look at a few successful NFT artists advice on how to transition from a digital artist to an NFT artist. And also we read some like news articles on like more information about like this field. So here's the contact list we have been like working on to connect to like reach out to a few digital artists. And then yeah, I would say it's like really painful process, but certainly we did get some few response from artists. And then although like in the end we didn't actually help any of them to transition into like NFT art, but I think we certainly like learn a lot like along the way just by like reaching out to artists and see what their perspective is in terms of like transitioning to NFT art. And we also made a workshop, as I mentioned. So we also recorded the workshop and then published the YouTube video on Intro to NFT art. And lastly, we compiled a list of resources for on the topic of NFT art. So for example, we identified a few NFT communities online, and also we are making some research and compare different marketplace and then see what are the advantage and disadvantage of some marketplace. So we hope that by providing these consulting materials, if any artists wanted to see how do they get started on NFT, right? They can choose a NFT marketplace to sell their art by looking at the material we have provided. For example, for OpenSea, is after our research, we find out that it's better for the beginners and it has huge access to the audience, and also it's relatively easy to get started. And for Rarible, which is another marketplace, it's relatively new, and then the artists have opportunity to earn government token, which means like they could become a partial ownership of this platform. So yeah, these are our findings.
Yeah, thank you, Tony, for presenting the NFT project. So I led the decentralized finance fund project for the consulting team. So basically we worked on, I did like some DeFi research. We also worked on a platform. I mean, we selected a platform to host our fund. And yeah, I guess you can go to the next slide where I'll present it more in details. So basically, as I said, like the consulting team focused beginning of winter quarter or end of winter quarter on this DeFi project. So basically the idea was we were thinking about making a decentralized investment fund for cryptocurrencies, and it was geared towards like college students. So the consulting team was the one responsible for choosing the cryptocurrencies and choosing the platforms that you are going to invest in. And the fund was basically going to be like something like an ETF, like for example, like take the S&P 500. We were thinking about like making something that looked like that basically. And so we also were talking about like transitioning to a DAO at one point where the DAO would be like would be voting on what assets should we add or like what assets should we remove from the fund, but we didn't get to that point. So this is like a screenshot of AV, which is a platform for lending and borrowing. We also talked about some platforms to lend or borrow money like AV, Compound, or other platforms. So this is like an example of one of the platforms that we were going to like invest the assets in, and then we'd get back assets that would represent our positions in AV. So the timeline of our DeFi project. So the first, I mean, there are like 4 bullet points. The first one being doing research about platforms to host our ETF or our investment fund. So we looked into token sets, DH, Enzyme Finance. I will be talking more about them later. The second one being creating the investment fund in itself. So it was basically like creating the portfolio of assets, choosing the parameters, choosing the performance fee, how many tokens are going to be in the fund, and also like talking about governance. So we started working we started like working on creating the investment fund, but we didn't finish it. And for the third and fourth bullet point, we didn't reach them yet. So it was basically around like researching the tokens and protocols, assessing the risk of the platforms that we were going to invest through. Also, we were also going to research like some ways to maximize our yield through using like strategies such as investing, using options, using also some other types of derivatives to maximize like the return on the asset that we invested. And the fourth point being onboarding new members, but we didn't get to realize it yet since we didn't finish the project. So these 2 screenshots are basically the first one being Melon, also right now called Enzyme.finance, and the second one is token sets, and these platforms basically allow you to like create your own investment vehicle or fund. So the only difference between these 2 platforms are the fees. So for Enzyme, it was cheaper to create the fund, but token sets had more options and it was way more customizable. So I think we decided to follow with token sets and create our fund with token sets. And we already decided like choosing what type of assets would go into the fund.
Thanks, Aziz, for covering that DeFi project. So lastly, after focusing on DeFi for a period of time, we decided to pivot back into NFT business models, and we wanted to see how can you make money with NFTs? And that was basically the guiding question for this phase of our consulting team. And we did this by taking a look at a popular case study. So NBA, the National Basketball Association, released a product, NBA Top Shot. I'll be speaking on that a little bit. So we decided to look at that to see how they were making money. Then we did some broad research to look to see, okay, what are the different revenue models? What are the different ways you can make money, and what are these categorizations? How can you actually make money with NFTs? And lastly, we're trying to use that categorization to think about how can a corporation actually adopt this in practice? So we decided to look at Konami's Yu-Gi-Oh! And this is currently in progress. So first, we decided to look at NBA Top Shot. So what NBA Top Shot is, it's literally a way for you to own moments in the National Basketball Association's game. So it might be like somebody taking a dunk, somebody shooting a 3-pointer. You can basically own that portion of the game. So they were releasing those videos through NFTs, and based off of that, we did some observational research and we posted our findings on Twitter. We created a thread and we posted our findings to get some engagement with the community. Next, we started thinking about, okay, what are the different business models? Who are the different players in the NFT industry as a whole? So really, we focused mainly on issuers, so people who release new NFTs, and infrastructure, thinking about people who, for example, run marketplaces. And so if we take a look at the issuers, we're looking at, okay, if you want to make money with NFTs as a creator of NFTs, then you'd probably get that through direct sales, secondary sales fees, royalties, curating content, reselling NFTs, developing a brand, marketing other platforms or services, even using some type of subscription model. So we also did the same thing for infrastructure. And based off of this categorization, we were thinking about, okay, what's an ideal corporation right now that one is publicly traded and is looking to increase their revenue and is in a unique position to actually use NFTs. So we identified Konami's Yu-Gi-Oh! So Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a pretty famous trading card game based off of a show and a manga. And we recognize that this is an ideal type of issuer in the NFT space, mostly because they already release their own collectibles, the trading cards. And they also actually have a digital platform, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, it would be pretty easy to convert this platform so that it can actually use NFTs. So if you look at some of our points, we're thinking, okay, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links can be used for tournaments. I mean, there's already an incentive for players to actually buy from the platform itself. There's knockoff versions of Yu-Gi-Oh! But if you want to play in the tournament, then you need to have the official. That means that they would need to buy the NFTs if they want to participate. And then we were thinking about also like when they are releasing new cards, they could pair the physical sets of packs, the physical sets of cards with actual NFTs that they can give. And that might just mean including a QR code in the packs of cards, or even releasing some rare sets of cards or packs that are only available in the digital format. And then we were also thinking about pairing the NFTs when selling packs with maybe access to some type of service, maybe tournaments or conferences, which they already host. Then we were looking at secondary sales fees. That's pretty much the biggest one, in my opinion, the secondary sales fees, because right now Konami's Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not making money from secondary sales. Players themselves are keeping the money. But if you use NFTs, then you could say, okay, every time somebody resells a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card, Konami's Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to get 10% of that transaction. That's really going to up some fees because there's a big market in trading Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. And then we're looking at some of the other aspects that Konami can take on. But as I mentioned, this is a work in progress, and we're going to be writing up our results once we finish fleshing this out. So that's pretty much what's taken most of our time for consulting team. Open to take some questions now.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions? We'll take a couple minutes.
Aziz, would you consider making your own fund, or have you considered it? I'm just curious because you seem very knowledgeable about the space.
Hey, Aziz.
Never mind.
Wait, so I had like some problems, like I muted myself.
Oh yeah, the question was, would you consider releasing your own fund because you're so knowledgeable about the DeFi space?
So basically, so we had like some like clubs, like outside clubs that reach out to us. I mean, they're not like college clubs, but they're like organizations such as BEN, which is like the Blockchain Education Network, and they're also like working on the same idea. So they're making like a fund of like they're like trying to like get like all the blockchain clubs in the US together to make like a fund that is going to be directed by college like executive members, like the blockchain executive members from every college. So I'm still like in touch with them, and they like started working on it. But if the question is like if I'm willing to like start a fund on my own, I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon, because like it's like a lot of work.
Gilberto, do you think it's a coincidence that Tony, Aziz, you and me put together an NFT presentation right before the NFT boom? Do you think that was anything to do with
Not a coincidence. The reason that we settled on NFTs is because I kept seeing it on my Twitter feed. So I'm not saying that we weren't early to the party, but I was, connected with Twitter. Yeah, I forgot to shout out Alex. Alex was working hard in the first 2 phases of our project.
I think we might have been more the cause towards Twitter than Twitter. No, I'm playing. I'm just.
Okay, if there are no more questions, we'll move on to research group. But just before we go move on, I remember a technical team had some links that they said they could share, but I don't see them in the chat. So if you could put them there, and it'll be easier for us to see it. So that and the video link, if you could share that too, that would be great. And now, welcome research group.
All right, thank you, Josh. So before we start, just know everyone that my name is Sung Lin. I was the current head of the research group. I'm gonna send everyone a link to our Medium article. I must say it's quite girthy, but it will give you a pretty good preview as to what we're gonna go over. I'll be sharing a presentation. Everyone on my team will be giving up their parts. So do spare me a moment, friends. All right, you should be able to see this. So we showed a long time about the name. We want something like, blockchain, Iceland's final frontier, but ultimately we have here fortifying Iceland tourism industry blockchain. And the names of the people involved in this project are quite extensive. So everyone, I'd like to give attention to everyone here, and I'm very grateful for their accomplishments. So I'll get things started. But before we do, just know everyone that this project was concerning about the healthcare as well as the tourism industry regarding Iceland, and we partnered up with IBM as well as the University of Iceland. And as a disclaimer, we had no financial ties with these organizations. We did this for purely research purposes. So just some food for thought as we go on. But if nothing else, I think we'll start with the background as to the context.
So this project was really initiated by the desire of the Icelandic government and the general tourism industry to recatalyze that strong historical focus on tourism that Iceland has had. So before COVID, there had been a slight decline in tourism, and COVID only accelerated that decline. And historically, tourism has been a huge impact on Iceland's economy. And this obvious economic impact was of significant concern to the Icelandic government and the locals that are benefiting from that tourism. And the implementation of quarantine measures for travelers, even as the pandemic has kind of changed and hopefully died down in certain areas, has kind of continued some of the restrictions on tourism. And ultimately, the healthcare system is still vulnerable. Of course, there are new variants of COVID going around, and it can be difficult to access healthcare. There are many high-risk patients in Iceland itself that are already taking a toll on the healthcare system. And due to budget cuts, due to that aforementioned existing decline in tourism, we're trying to make sure that blockchain can actually serve as a potential solution for some of these problems and help reignite the tourism industry. Our 3 main solutions are the IBM Digital Health Pass, which is a symptom tracker, a digital heat map, and other forms of reducing frictional travel in Iceland.
Yeah, so our first design proposal will be frictionless travel, which in other words is what works when data is shared in a safe way to ensure people's safety as well as others. And as AJ mentioned before, COVID-19 hit the whole globe. Iceland was having reduced tourism, but tourism rates were still high, which meant that there was a lot of overcrowding and damage to Iceland's environment. Iceland is known for its natural habitat, and so that was being damaged, and Icelandic officials were very concerned. Now that vaccines are rolling out, the Icelandic government wants to allow tourists back in while keeping Iceland citizens safe, and we will examine that with our solution. Next slide, the IBM Digital Health Pass. So our solution, this IBM Digital Health Pass runs on a blockchain platform and allows tourist health credentials to be verified without violating user privacy. Next slide. So the way IBM Health Pass works is, in terms of reducing frictional travel, is that the issuer, in our case, the healthcare provider, will give the holder, in our case, a tourist, access to their COVID tests or vaccine records and relevant healthcare records so that it complies with what the Iceland government's requirements are to enter the country, and you would upload that onto their platform. So when the tourists arrive at Iceland's airports, the airport security would then act as the verifier and verify that the tourists meet the criteria, as in they had negative COVID tests or are vaccinated. And the next slide shows kind of the user interface of what the user will see. So you'll see the COVID-19 test results, the PCR test results, and then the QR code will be able to be scanned and shown to the verifier so that the relevant health records will be shown to them and the tourists will be able to enter the country. Next slide. So the values of this IBM Health Pass, IBM Digital Health Pass being implemented would be, first and foremost, safety. So the government of Iceland will be able to control who comes into the country by only allowing people who meet their standards of entry into the country. Standardization and authenticity kind of go hand in hand, where we move away from physical records that can be easily tampered with and move to a digital model. And since this is a blockchain platform, it is very hard to fake information. So authentication is not really an issue that we are seeing with people trying to fake their healthcare credentials to go potentially visit other countries. The Digital Health Pass also maintains user privacy while ensuring that the user is safe for travel. So how it works is that it only reveals information necessary for entry and that is authorized to view by the holder. So this system gives a lot of power to the holder. And with the correct implementation of the IBM Digital Health Pass, we would be able to lower the current COVID testing requirements by the government of Iceland, but also ensure that citizens and visitors alike are protected and safe. And if this implementation succeeded, other countries could potentially use Iceland's model and implement their own health passports to allow more tourists in country without jeopardizing their citizens' health. And these are the main takeaways of what I just, basic summary of what I just talked about. And I'll pass it on to Hani.
Yeah, so our second design proposal was about informing tourists. Yeah, so as COVID-19 has gotten increasingly dangerous and important to track, tourists in Iceland have had increasing demand on like the whereabouts of the disease. So like entering areas with hotspots of COVID has been a problem to incoming tourists who want to avoid the virus at all costs. And so these issues are in line with the problems of the tourist firms who want to maximize the safety of the tourists. So our proposed solution is for the tourist firms to issue a blockchain-based solution based on proof of authority to generate a database of COVID-19 symptoms among the tourists and display that data online as a heat map. So this application would be mandatory to complete every day while a tourist is visiting Iceland, and would give users warnings about being near or in a COVID hotspot through notifications on the phone. And so as you can see here is our application design. So on the left displayed is the homepage of the application, which has 4 options. The symptom check button is the button the user would fill out every day, which lists out questions for the user to fill. And based on that information, a heat map would be created, which could be accessed by clicking on the heat map button, also on the homepage. The profile button on the homepage would simply display the user's name, symptom, and location, and then the FAQ button would list a general set of questions someone may have about the application or COVID in general. And so next is the general flow of the system that's outlined as follows. So what would happen is first the user would open the proposed symptom tracker app, and then the location of that individual would be accessed through the phone and stored on the blockchain, while the profile of the individual is stored locally on the phone. And so what would happen is the symptom tracker application will check the region of the individual, and if there's a lot of symptoms near X kilometers of that location, a notification will be sent on the phone to that individual, alerting potential danger. And after the location check, the user will be directed to the homepage where the user would fill out the symptom check. And if any of the questions to the symptom checks are yes, the symptom status and location would be added to the blockchain, and that data would be added onto the heat map for that heat map to be generated on everyone's application. And so the value adds of here, there's 5 main value adds. So first is anonymity. So when a user inputs information about symptoms into a system, their identity isn't disclosed because the profile of the user would be off-chain while the location and symptom status of the individual is on-chain. So that disconnect between the profile and the user's identity and also the symptom of the individual would basically make the user's information anonymous. And for the second one, authenticity, this tracker is on an immutable audit trail on blockchain. So it's impossible to modify or destroy any information of the individual. Visual representation, of course, there's a heat map to see visually where and which areas are congested with COVID symptoms. Personal alerts, users are notified if they are in X kilometer proximity of a significant amount of COVID symptoms. And also flexibility. This design could be used not only for COVID-19, but also for future pandemics or diseases that may come up. And so there, we recognize 2 possible alternative solutions to this tracker. One alternative solution is the Google COVID case maps, which we seem to rule out really right away because Google doesn't seem to have a lot of data or information about the symptom or case status in Iceland. As you can see in the picture, there's no data on for the past 14 days in Iceland. And the other main alternative solution could be Reckoning C19, which is an official app from the Icelandic government to help mitigate COVID spread. And one big drawback of this app was that there's no anonymity to the system, meaning like the government has full access to someone's personal identity, symptoms, and locations, which could lead to possible unfair use by the government. And yeah, the government could basically have all of your information. And so putting that all into context, some for the core takeaways is the blockchain really needed. This was a question that's very important to this proposal, and our hypothesis is that blockchain is not really necessary if Reckoning 19 can be modified to generate heat maps, assuming that the app encourages tourists to track their symptoms on a daily basis. But again, the big drawback of this is that Icelandic government would need to be trustworthy and also yeah, the big problem is that the Icelandic government has information to the location, symptom, and identity of the individual, which for some could be a breach of privacy. And how can blockchain system be better than a centralized system? In terms of this question, blockchain system is still valid because it allows for anonymity and consensus mechanisms such as proof of authority would allow this blockchain system to have lower energy consumption compared to like other consensus mechanisms such as proof of work or proof of stake. And for the third question, how can symptom tracker be applied in future scenarios? Yeah, so this is like a question where this symptom tracker could be used for future diseases or pandemics because it's very easily transitionable from like a COVID-based app to maybe another disease.
Yeah, so I'm the next one up for design proposal 3. My proposal revolves around promoting sustainable tourism by economically incentivizing patronage at small businesses. So the real problem is that from 2010 to 2018, tourism played a really crucial role in the Icelandic economy. As of 2019, I believe tourism accounted for around 8 to 9% of the total national GDP and around 16% of the workforce. But unfortunately, in 2019 and 2020, the total number of overnight tourists in Iceland dropped by nearly 80%. And then to supplement that, we see that citizens in Iceland are generally frustrated because of the behavior and the spending of tourists while they stay here. And so that was really the problem that I designed, and the research group as a whole designed this proposal around. The next slide talks about what our solution is. And generally, when I've just found in life experience, solutions generally come in 2 forms, either by making something require less effort or making it cheaper. And so while the first and second proposal aim to increase the number of healthy tourists and increase the ease of travel in Iceland, the third proposal strives to increase patronage at local businesses and make that easier and cheaper. So our incentives really exist through a customer-based loyalty system that's very similar to the existing methods at major airlines with the miles points, or hotel chains with points for overnight stays. But instead of doing it in general currency, we're going to do it based off blockchain tokens that provide for greater security and flexibility at these small businesses. So the main stakeholders are the small business owners, obviously, and the tourists, very clearly, and then the Icelandic policymakers, who I think are really have to hope to sustainably bolster foreign tourism given the amount of impact it has in the national economy. So upon arriving in Iceland, we have to figure out how we apply and execute this system. The way that we went about it was by creating an app that tourists download and install that has a map of the small businesses. The tourists can make purchases on their app by clicking on the businesses on the app. And when they make the purchases, they earn tokens for the amount of money that they spend at the small business. So kind of you can see it in this figure a little bit. It's a little bit complicated, but when a transaction occurs, we can see that there are 3 nodes: the customer or the tourist, the business, and then the blockchain algorithm. Generally, for each purchase, the business is obviously going to sell the product to the tourist, and the tourist is going to provide the money in exchange. And then the tourist is going to upload a picture of their receipt to the app, which is received by the blockchain algorithm. And the blockchain algorithm is going to provide a discount token to the tourist that will be registered on the blockchain. The business is going to upload a receipt as well. And both of these receipts are going to contain specific QR codes specific to the business that goes back and tracks the cash flows created by the entire system. But we'll get to that in a little bit. And then the manager is also going to give the seller token to the business. And so that's kind of the point of sale design that we're looking at for this. That's the backbone of this larger system, if that makes sense. So kind of to revolve that around, give a little bit more perspective, a tourist is going to receive discount tokens for each purchase they make, and they can then redeem those tokens at the next small business, obviously for a discount. So if the traveler uses those tokens to pay $95 to the second small business instead of $100, then in turn, at the end of the month, or at the end of the period that Icelandic government decides to check these cash flows at, the small business will receive a check from this manager for the difference of $5 because, actually I'll get to that in a minute, but at the beginning of every month, the businesses are going to pay a certain amount of cash flows to the manager to stay into the association. And so that's going to really fund the discount that the businesses front later on. But I'll get back to that in a little bit because I know that this is a lot of information just on one slide. So just an example scenario of how this would work in greater detail, let's say for an entire month, and that's how I revolve this because I figured it's easier to attack it from a monthly perspective. Customer A is going to give $9,000 to firm A, and they're going to get 18,000 discount tokens in behind. And then in exchange, at the bottom right quarter here, we'll see that the customer A will front their 900 total discounts at firm B. And so then firm B is going to have to get that amount paid back by the blockchain system, that money. And so what we see here is $3,900 in the entire amount that the blockchain system is going to have to front. And so that amount that the blockchain system fronts comes from the cash flows that are entirely generated from this business. So when we see the $39,000 out here to the left, some of that will be put back in to the total fund to fund these discounts. That's kind of where that money is coming from. And we see a self-sustaining cycle in the long term because the cash flows from the business will sustain and fund any deficits or any discounts. I think that's the next question. Next slide, Sam. So I think a few value adds, and I think a few of them have already been touched on either in this specific proposal or in previous proposals by Josh and Hanhi. I think the first two come kind of self-explanatory. We're going to hopefully see an increase in tourist sales. That's the backbone of this presentation. We think that if we can increase spending at small businesses, we can increase tourism in the long term by bringing about more satisfaction on the tourist perspective and also from the citizen perspective, because there will be more spending at small businesses and more interaction between tourists and citizens. And then the next two kind of come hand in hand because we see that there's a lot more loyalty management systems being created today and subscription-based services in smaller businesses, but that's really costly to develop a system that's tailored to that one business. So by creating one entire customer loyalty system, it reduces the cost across the board with all of these small businesses contributing to the creation of that system and upholding that system. So it's a little bit less expensive. And then obviously because the system is fronting those discounts, and again, like there's going to be reduced risk from a financial perspective with the businesses. And then blockchain creates the trust and the security by tracking all the purchases, and the flexibility is really evident through being able to apply these discounts at a variety of different, for all of the different businesses that are in the system. So those are the value adds we see from the system. Yeah, this is the primary alternative solution. I can never pronounce this city name. Song might have to help me out, but Reykjavik is generally, sorry Song, is generally the easiest and most inexpensive way to join because they use a percentage-based model that I think occurs at like 9 attractions in the city. I think it's 12 restaurants. There's like 9 shops and like 2 pools, like thermal pools, which is great. Like I'm not at all, saying there's any negativity around that. I love that, but I don't think it's all encompassing when we go to Iceland. Obviously, it's a much smaller country than the United States or in many other countries around the world, but I don't think it incorporates enough of the small businesses. So, and obviously it's a city card and we're trying to expand into a little bit more areas than just the capital. So that's the main alternative solution that we see, but we think that ours provides greater flexibility and just greater experiences across a wide variety of attractions and shops and restaurants. Yeah, I think, again, primary takeaways that we see pretty self-explanatory are the flexibility and security in applying the tokens and obviously being economically more feasible from the customer perspective, as well as the ease in tracking transactions and onboarding individuals. I think it's a relatively simple process in terms of the point of sale. And then it's just a matter of the paying back and refronting all the discounts at the end and beginning of each month. That becomes a little more complicated, but we really see a lot of viability in the tourists earning discounts. And then we think that the businesses will be financially incentivized because they'll gain more money from it long term. So it's somewhat of a self-sustaining system. We don't think that the system will negatively impact on the larger amount of cash flows that are outside the system as well. So that kind of gives a rundown of this proposal. I think I went way over time, so I am sorry for that.
Not a problem at all, everyone. I hope you enjoyed our presentation, and right now we'll be answering any of your questions.
Yeah, I have a question. So
boy.
thinking about the three proposals as a whole, is there any proposal that like really stands out as like maybe the most pressing or the most feasible to implement into Iceland today?
That's a good question. I think we as an entire research group have varying opinions, but seeing as how Alex is on mute, maybe he has a strong opinion on a particular stance.
I think Hanhi's is very applicable to the modern day system that we've seen in terms of tracking symptoms internationally. So I think that's the preeminent proposal.
And regarding the IBM Health Pass, the truth be told, a lot of the resources we got from that particular design proposal was from the marketing department. And with Anthony, we had to sign an invisible non-disclosure agreement. So even all the materials that I want to say, I cannot say as legally obliged. So there's still a lot of ambiguity in that particular design proposal. But give the paper a read, everyone, and hopefully that'll shed some more light into the subject. Any other questions?
So like for the first two proposal, I understand that like because it's related to like healthcare privacy, and then it makes sense to like incorporate the blockchain to space. And for the like third one, I'm wondering like why should we use blockchain to and then like give the token to like those travelers? Yeah, like can it be replaced by a centralized system? And what are like the main value added blockchains in the third proposal?
Yeah, I can answer that. So really the whole idea is we want small businesses that aren't getting a lot of tourism, like that aren't getting a lot of tourists to come in, like that are spending money there. We want them to be incentivized to come spend money there through that loyalty discount token. And the idea is that these small businesses, it might be local diners, it might be other, maybe like a bookstore, for example. They don't have much excess capital to spend to take on too much risk for a loyalty program. So the idea is through this group-based program, some of the risk is offset, and it's going to make it a little bit more convenient for small businesses that don't have that much income in the first place to be able to take on the system and get some benefits from the tourism industry.
And where does like blockchain come into play?
Yeah, the biggest part about blockchain in this system is these are businesses that are competitors to each other, and they need to establish a set of rules for the organization as a whole to operate. So really, if you set the terms of agreement into the blockchain algorithm themselves, then there's less risk for the small businesses to, for example, need to take on a lawsuit if one of the parties does not follow through with the agreements.
Got it. Thanks.
If there are no more questions, thank you everyone so much for attending tonight. I hope you guys learned a lot, and we'll see you next fall. I think.
Alrighty.
Yeah, good job everyone, and good luck on finals.